We'll go ahead and get started, everybody. I'll be your moderator tonight, and I am excited for the event. So we decided to do things a little bit different tonight, shake things up a little bit, and have a bit of a panel, question and answer panel. And so anytime that you guys have a question during the event, just type it into the chat. I have it right here, finally, and I will see those, and we will respond to them. So we do have some questions we collected beforehand, though, that we're going to incorporate into this as well, and so we'll probably get started with that. But first, for any new employees or for employees that don't know us well, which most of you do, we'll go ahead and do a quick introduction. I'm Mason Burchett, Director of Marketing and Development, and I've been working here for about 7 years. It'll be 8 in November, and this is a great place to work, and we're excited about being able to do stuff like this with our employees and make Best Buy Metals stand out and do things a little bit different and be unique. So Adam, why don't you grab a mic and introduce yourself as well?
Adam Clark, Chief Operating Officer. I've been with the company for 12 years in April, so obviously had some time to experience the growth and the culture of the company, and had a chance to walk through some professional development in my time here, which I think is really what we're going to be talking about as we talk about developing leaders and understanding what it takes to elevate your professional career maybe to the next level. So I'm excited to be able to share with you guys tonight.
Isaac Libby, the CEO, been with the company close to 20 years, going on April. But I am excited about tonight. I always feel grateful to be among such good leaders this evening, and with you guys being a part of that. So I'm excited what the questions you might have for us.
Hi, and I'm Mark Tipton. I am the Director of Sales, and I've been with Best Buy Metals for 3 years now.
All right, so let's hit the ground running, and we're going to go ahead and throw out our first question of the night. And this one was, why is becoming a good follower an important step in becoming a great leader? Isaac, you've got the mic. Why don't you kick it off?
Good follower. You know, I believe this is a really good question, because to be a good follower, if you're going to try to lead, you first have to follow. And really, if you are a leader, it takes both, and both are just as important as the other. I believe one of the most important things about following is to realize that it does not make you any smaller or any less important than the person you're following. And it also don't mean that you don't have any knowledge about what's going on, and that you can't help make any decisions in the matter, but that it takes someone. If everyone's leading, then who's going to follow? And if everyone's following, who's going to lead? So it takes both really to work out good.
That's a great answer. And Mark, me and you were talking about this the other day, how important followership is, and exactly what Isaac was just outlining. Some people feel like it's a subservient thing, or I'm lesser because I'm just a follower. Maybe expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, so, as Isaac just mentioned, you got to have a team, whether you're in the military or on a sports team or in a business situation like we are. You have to have a team. And in order to get things done, somebody, and when a hard question comes up or a decision has to be made, somebody has to be the ultimate authority to make that decision. But as Isaac so clearly indicated, and this is true, some of the best ideas come from the team. Some of the best ideas come from the people who are in the weeds every day doing the work, and they go, oh, it'd be a lot easier or better if we did this or made this adjustment or made this change, where from our viewpoint, maybe it's been a while since we've done it, or we're not that engaged with the details every single day, and we might not see that. So becoming a good follower is really the first step. I mean, one of the keys to being a great leader and having a great team is having loyal people with you. And if you don't have those loyal followers, people who are bought in, who are in the trenches, who will do whatever it takes to get done, those are the ones who really do the heavy lifting in any organization. Those are the ones who get it done. Learning to first humble yourself and understand what it's like, so that way when you get the opportunity to lead one day, you will know exactly what they're going through. You will have walked in those shoes. You will know how they feel. You will know the processes, and you'll be able to relate to them in a very unique way.
That's excellent. Thanks, Mark. This next question was for you, Adam, if you want to grab the mic. And it was a good one that I'm sure he's going to spend plenty of time on. This is an interesting question for real. It sounds basic, but it is interesting. What is the most important leadership skill I should be working to develop?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I think of leaders and when I think of strong leadership, communication really is the thing that always kind of comes to mind. Can we communicate goals? Can we motivate through communication? Can we hold people accountable through communication? And I think that's something that maybe gets overplayed or underappreciated when there are other things like setting goals and being analytical and hustling. We appreciate hustling for sure, but when it comes to leadership, I think being able to clearly communicate not only the goals, but how you feel about your team, how you feel about your team members is so important. And I think that communication is only achieved by practicing and by trial and sometimes error. And I think that asking people to get out of their comfort zones is something that is always really challenging, or it's challenging for a lot of people. But you're not going to be an effective communicator unless you're practicing and unless you're intentional about how you're spending your time. Our last leading from the front, we were talking about having these crucial conversations, and the one before that was kind of conflict and understanding how to communicate through conflict effectively. So there's a lot of attributes that I would say are important to developing as leaders and developing and preparing for your next professional step. But I would say communication and shaping how you communicate is really the most important thing in terms of leading a team. If you're a one-man show, maybe it's less important, although you still need to communicate with customers and vendors, and all of that's really important. But when it comes to communicating and actually leading a team and talking about scaling and growing in a position, communication seems to be the one that always kind of floats to the top for me.
Yeah, how many of the problems would you say, maybe the majority of them that we've encountered over the years have been, oh, I didn't know that, or no one told me that, or I didn't hear that. So yeah, communication, that's excellent. Definitely a big one there. Mark, this next one was actually directed towards you. How do I know what my next step is, and when should I expect it?
Well, that's definitely a sliding scale. The experiences I've had in my life is you will know when that time comes because you will feel an unsettled feeling in your heart and in your soul and your spirit. You will not be satisfied any longer doing what it is that you've done. In order to earn that place, though, you really have to go through a process, and that is process step number one is performing your existing duties, your current duties with excellence every single day, with consistency and excellence. If you do that, then the doors to further opportunity will be open to you. But then when you start feeling that stirring in your heart and you have that desire to do more and be more, you will earn that right. And you can't put a clock or a calendar on it because it's different for everybody, and it's different based on what the needs are of the organization that they're in. But there's a three-step process that I've gone through multiple times when this has happened to me. Step number one is things are going on and you say, okay, can I live with it the way it is? And if the answer is no, then the second question you have to ask is, can I change it? And if you can change it and live with it, great. You stay there and continue contributing in that arena. And then the third question, but if you can't live with it and you can't change it, the third question is, can I stay? And so you kind of go through that process, and if there is a place, maybe it's another role or maybe it's in a different location. We were talking about a friend of yours that relocating his whole family because an opportunity came up and the door opened, and so he's
been there.
He's willing to do that, right? Yeah, he's been there and done that. So you never really know when it's going to happen. The key that I see for most people though is that they're impatient and they want it to happen too quickly, and you have to earn the trust. You have to develop value. You have to you have to let them know. I was talking with somebody earlier today. He said, man, I do a lot of different things around here. I said, that's the greatest job security you can have, is being able to do a lot of things, because it's going to take more than one person to replace you. And so you just built job security. So being able to invest and learn as much as you can learn in as many different areas as you can learn, to set yourself up and put yourself in a position so that when the door opens, you are the natural candidate to take that next step.
Isaac, I'm interested to hear your perspective on this, on how do I know what my next step is and when should I expect it. And I'll tell you this from my point of view, because I can speak for my generation of impatient people. And we think, well, I've been here 2 years, it's my turn. 2 years isn't a long time. 3 years, 4 years sometimes isn't a long time. My dad was a sales rep for 20 years, and he was just, that's what he did. So maybe speak to that a little bit from the perspective of the owner of the company. You've obviously seen the ebbs and flows from a startup to a multi-million-dollar company that we are now. How would you answer that question? How do I know what my next step is?
I think that if you have your mindset to start with, that you are working with the company, for the company, and not just for a paycheck, that you're trying to do everything you can to help the company grow, then the next step comes. Really, it's hard to say that you're always going to know exactly when the next step will be there. I think that I was thinking about that as Mark was speaking too on it so well about it, is that you can't just walk into a manager's office and say, okay, I'm ready for the promotion. I think you have to walk in with the idea of receiving feedback on how well you're doing, at what point that you can take on more responsibility. Even asking the question sometimes is, how can I take on more load off of you, or take on more responsibility? And then actually the next step kind of falls in your lap if you're able to take care of what you've already been doing, and you're motivated enough not just to go in just to say, okay, I'm ready for a raise. That's different than getting promoted. Now, don't get me wrong, we all know that promotion usually does come with, incentives and raises. But you don't want just to come in there for that reason is not really the way to get a raise. You show, and that's what so many have done here. I mean, they've showed such potential. They showed that they're a company man. They showed flexibility. And flexibility, lots of times, is just being there when whatever needs to be done, whenever it needs to be done, even though they have their main. And then promotion comes. I think you don't necessarily know exactly, but it'll automatically, there's so much to be done, it'll automatically be put in your lap, and it'll come natural.
That's excellent advice. Adam, this next question is for you. And me and you have had conversations about this, and over the years have talked about this. How do I stay motivated when I don't feel motivated?
Well, we talk about positivity in the workplace a lot. We talk about culture because we realize that it's not always going to be easy. There are going to be days when you come in and you feel defeated, or there's going to be seasons in your life, your personal life, your professional life, when you're just not going to have the sense of motivation. And I think being able to have this perspective and this culture set corporately helps, because you have people who are going to be lifting you up. But, as an individual, for me, it's always been the effort and the discipline of choosing. Just like if you want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get more work done, you have to choose to do it and be dedicated to that decision. And is it hard? Yeah, for sure. Are there days when I'm not motivated? Yeah, for sure. But I think that you have to start, something that Isaac had said, you have to realize, are you part of the company, or are you operating just for yourself? Because if you're just working just for yourself and just for the paycheck, when you lack that motivation, you're going to lack the motivation. You're just not going to have it. You're not going to feel the urge to push on through those difficult seasons or through those dry seasons. But when you know that you're working for your peers and for your supervisors and for the company, and you take a step back and you say, okay, I know I'm not at my best, but for the company to succeed and to help my peers and to help make my supervisor not only look good but do good, I have to get myself out of this funk. And so I do think it's a couple of things. I think it's being bought into our culture. We talk about being different, not just for the sake of being different, but because we think that it is the greatest way to establish joy and satisfaction in the work that we do. And corporately, we're committed to that, and that's why we have that on our KRAs, and we say, okay, well, if you're going to be on our team, then you have to make an effort to come in and be positive and influence your peers and influence our customers. We talked about that in our managers meeting today. And then individually, I think we just need to say, okay, for me to have opportunities, it's fitting that this follows the, what's my next step look like. I won't promote somebody who's sour. I won't promote somebody who can't motivate their team through positive energy and action. And I think that is one of the things that we've done really well as a company, is that we've allowed people to develop their own skills, their own hard skills, their own soft skills, but we've never really put somebody in a position and said, hey, you're allowed to be a jerk, or you're allowed to have low energy, or you're allowed to be sour. And I think that has helped for people who want to grow and advance with the company. I think that's helped get them past these seasons where they may not feel motivated.
Yeah, and I know for me, and maybe I'm abusing the word motivation, but I've always segmented motivation and personal drive into two different things, because I've been very motivated at times and excited to come to work and ready to tackle my day. And then there's days I'm just like, I do not want to go to work today. And I'm human. That's the way it is. And I'm like, I never miss work. I could miss the day and nobody would think anything about it, except Isaac. But but it's my drive that's like, I've got responsibilities. I care about my reputation at work. I care about the work that I'm doing. People depend on me. They expect me to be there. And maybe that's motivating myself. I still don't feel motivated, but I'm able to activate that drive and push myself to keep going. And then the motivation comes back around. Like you said, you find the way to get out of the funk and to get the cloudiness out of your head and get back to work. Mark, this one is for you. Why is leadership training and mentorship important?
You may have heard that, this guy or this gal is a born leader. There's no such thing. There are some people that have characteristics and qualities that may make it easier for them to develop into that leader at some point. But none of us are born that way. The right to lead is a right that is earned, and is earned through great effort and toil and sacrifice, and as Isaac mentioned a minute ago, doing whatever it takes, rolling up your sleeves, getting dirty, getting in there and doing the work to earn the respect of your peers. I can't think of a greater way to earn the respect of your team than for you to roll up your sleeves and get in and do the dirty work with them. And I've seen each of you guys do that. I've seen Adam out on a forklift on a hot day driving and loading trucks. I've seen Mason up early and staying late. And we were in a warehouse in Charlotte at 11 o'clock one night getting an order ready for the next.
Trim.
Yeah, making trim for the next. I mean, those are the things that you can't, as you said, motivate somebody to do. Motivation is temporary, but being passionate, driven is something that you choose to do. As Adam was talking a moment ago, it's almost like the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness are those temporary things that happen and you go, oh, I like that. You got a gift or something. Joy is a choice that you choose to have every single day, regardless of what happens. You can still have joy in your life even when bad things happen. It's very similar to what we're talking about there. So for leadership, if you would go back to the question one more time.
Yeah, why is leadership training and mentorship important?
Yeah, so the training piece of that is that's where these skills are really learned. That's where these fine tunings, these minute areas of growth take place. Even though you may have been born with characteristics going to make you lean towards being a leader, if we don't practice those skills and hone those skills, we're never going to be where we need to be. So being a part of leadership training and then having a mentor, having somebody that you can look to and say, you know what, that guy or that gal, that's where I want to go. That's who I want to be like. That's who I want to emulate myself. As kids, I don't know about you all, but as a kid, I had sports heroes. I had guys that I wanted to emulate. And I chose this number because that guy wore that number, and I tried to adapt my playing style to the way this guy played, and so one of the things that, and this kind of circles back to the following piece you asked me earlier, everybody is following somebody. Whether you know it or not, whether you realize it or not, everybody is being mentored by, and we're following somebody. I mean, just look around at the clothes you wear, to the car you drive, to the music you listen to the shows you watch. Everybody. I mean, I often ask, okay, if we were in a large group of people, I'd say, how many of you own a sports jersey with a sports hero, sports star name and number on it? And a lot of people raise their hand. You're following them. That's your mentor. Whether you know it or not, they're influencing you. And so what we listen to, what we pour into our lives is critical. And so choosing, willfully, mindfully, intentionally choosing somebody who's doing things the right way for the right reasons, that you can say, that's what leadership looks like, and that's what I want to learn how to do. And that takes humility. It goes back to being that good follower again that we talked about. I had a guy come up to me just recently. I've known him for years. He's a very well-respected coach. He's been highly successful. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's an unbelievable guy. And he said the other day I was challenged to find a mentor. And he said, I want you to mentor me. And I was like, I'm not I'm not the guy here. He said, no. He said, I knew as soon as I was convicted that I needed a mentor, you were the one I wanted to ask, will you do that for me? And of course, it's exciting and it's flattering, but it's also a daunting challenge to do. And I'm like, look, dude, make sure you're seeing the whole picture before you make that decision, because sometimes we see people just at their best. And one of the greatest mistakes we can make is to judge somebody at their best moments or at their worst moments. You have to look at the entire body of work. If you're going to judge an athlete, you go to Babe Ruth, he was the home run leader for years and years and years and years till Hank Aaron came along and broke that record, right? But people looked at Babe Ruth as being the home run leader. But you know what else? What other category he was the leader in? The most strikeouts. Nobody wanted to look at that. They just wanted to look at all the home runs. So you can't judge him by his worst moment only, and you can't judge him by his best only. So make sure that you have a real picture of who this person is that you're choosing to follow and who you're choosing to mentor you, so that you fully understand what it is you're getting into. But having somebody that you can ask those hard questions to and dig into deeply, and that they'll openly and honestly share with you and share their life with you and admit their faults and failures and mistakes and how they learned what they learned and how they got where they got. One of the biggest mistakes is we can stop and look at somebody where they are now. You talked about your generation, and I hate to stereotype people, but this happens. To look at somebody where they are now and say, that's where I want to be right now. And that's what happens a lot is they want to be where others have spent a lifetime driving and growing to get to, and they want to get there immediately and don't want to have to go through all the work and the failures and frustrations it took to get there.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, sure.
For the mentorship. Those are great points, Mark. I mean, I think finding somebody to help you understand the path and not only your current season or not only where you want to go is really important. And I think looking outside of what you're familiar with and looking for mentors outside of an arena that you're familiar with is also a really good idea, because I can say from my own experience, I spent a number of years, really until just recently, being Best by Metals and surrounding myself with leaders of Best by Metals who are all obviously really, really great leaders. But this last year, over the last couple of years, I've been intentional to connect with people even outside of our industry. And wow, did that open my eyes. That really revealed to me things that I was just oblivious to, because not that I was in a bubble, but a little bit, and being able to hear other people's perspectives outside of our industry or outside of our cultural norms was really helpful. And I heard somebody describe it as, when you have good network and when you have good mentorship, it's like a time machine for you. They're going to help you understand how to navigate very challenging circumstances and very challenging seasons. And it's probably worthwhile to go through most of them, but you may not have to live in them as long as your mentor did, and they're going to help you understand the natural progression that should happen and that could happen faster, you know. And I think that's going to be my encouragement to anybody who is watching here. If we talk about why is mentorship important, well, I can speak very, very openly that that's something that I neglected for a long time in my professional career, and as I've been very intentional with it over these last couple of years, wow, has my ability to think outside of my natural patterns expanded, my ability to prioritize, my ability to understand delegation through those prioritizations has really, really expanded much faster than it had up to the point where I was just living within our Best Buy Metals world. So that's a lot of the value that I see in mentorship, is being able to think outside of the way you think every single day at work.
I'm interested. Yeah, I was going to actually point this towards you too, Isaac, about that, because Isaac actually obviously gave me my first leadership position here as a warehouse manager in Asheville, and then my big major role in Greenville as the general manager. And I love leadership content and reading leadership books and watching leadership videos. And they laid a great foundation. But there were times where there were specific situations that those books didn't help with. I was like, these aren't helping. And I had to call Isaac and say, hey, what should I do here? What should I do here? And that's never changed. I've been here almost 8 years. And this week, Isaac was in my office. I said, hey, give me some feedback. You know, what could I do better? What could I improve on? So obviously say whatever you're going to say, but I also wanted to get your perspective on, Adam was kind of talking about that outside network. Not everybody has access to that. Some people are a lot more confined to just what they're able to get here, even at Best Buy Metals. Maybe speak to mentorship here internally.
Yeah, that's actually along the lines I was going to bring out, is the fact that so many, they come and they feel like that they've already got what it takes. Now, just you brought yourself a picture, definitely a good one to use, because it didn't take long to figure out that he really was for the company and he wanted to do his very best, and I knew he would be going somewhere with the company. At that point, it would have done him harm and it wouldn't have done him any good if we said, okay, we're going to bring you from here and we're going to put you into the position he's in now, or even to bring him straight to a general manager. And he's not really had, even though he was already there in his mind, he already knew he wanted to do whatever he could for the company, and we could see that. But I would challenge others to always think of being mentored is not being degraded, it's not it's not degradation. It's at whatever age you're in, even whatever position you're in, we all need mentors, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in our relationship with God. We need people that kind of hold us accountable and bring us up in our life. People that's already been there in places. And so even the advice and the things that Mark and the ones here give me, there's things I take regularly, and it helps my life to grow in, whether it's in the business world or just in regular. So, and Mark said something good, that a lot of people want to go right away from where they are and just be right at the top. They just think they just need to be right there because and they may feel that because their attitude is good. They may feel that because that's where they want to be, and some of the reasons not terrible. But I've seen that in children, teenagers that become just barely adults, and they get married and they want exactly what their parents had. As an example. And so they go out, and the first thing they do is they go in debt. They don't think about that their parents took all this time to get where they are with their vehicles, their houses, their land, whatever that God's allowed them to have. But they want it now, instant gratification. And lots of times it's the same way in the workplace. They feel like, well, I'm at that age that I see someone else is, so I want to be at that position. But if they're not built their way up and been mentored along the way, then it would put them in a bad position to put them in that place. It set them up for failure. Yes. And we've seen that happen because if we're not careful, we'll decide that someone has the right attitude and we'll put them in too quickly, and they fail at it, and it's usually our fault for doing so because we want to move them too quickly. So to what you're saying, Mason, I really feel like that this is a really good topic because I need mentored. I've got people in my life that all through life that I need mentor, and I'm thankful for that. I never want to push it away, say I'm above that. We all need mentored, whether it's in the workplace or in other areas of our life.
Thank you, Isaac. Appreciate that. Adam, this is going to be an operational question. We'll get you to grab the mic. When is it appropriate for me to make decisions without consulting my supervisor?
I guess that depends on who you are. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that comes back to experience. You know, have you gained the trust of your supervisor by executing and meeting expectations for a period of time? You know, and obviously there's some things, like there are a number of things that I don't do without talking to Isaac, right? I mean, that's normal. It's a normal part of running a business, is that there's a chain of command, and you want to make sure that sometimes it's not even a matter of asking permission. Sometimes it's a matter of saying, hey, this is what's happening. We all need to be in the loop, because there are a lot of different functions, a lot of different positions that rely on shared information. So asking for permission is not always, or having these conversations is not always about asking for permission. But when in doubt, I mean, again, we're trying to put people in positions where discernment and good judgment is one of their leadership skills. And when in doubt, I mean, if in your heart and in your mind you're like, man, I could probably make this decision, but I maybe need to talk to somebody about it, maybe need to talk to my supervisor about it, well, talk to him about it. That's another part of communication. Can you share information effectively, as quickly, so it's not a distraction to what other responsibilities need to be done? But then again, I think have that type of conversation with your boss. You know, if you're to the place where you're like, man, I really feel like I can make this decision as well as anybody else can, well, maybe the first time around, talk to your boss about that and say, hey, is this something that you're comfortable with me making the decision on, or would you prefer that we talk about it? Is this something that I have all the skills and all the information at my disposal to make the decision without, you know, having to check back in? Does that disrupt your day if I'm having to stop and ask you about these things? Because that happens a lot too. You know, I'll get emails or I'll get messages throughout the course of the day, and it's something that I'm like, that should just be taken care of. You know, why is somebody interrupting my day? Not that I'm putting myself on a high horse or pedestal, but we're all very, very busy, and it's appropriate to understand when to ask for permission, approval, and when you do have the skill set to actually make those decisions on your own. So again, I think that comes back to healthy communication. One, know what your responsibilities are. Show and prove to your boss that you are able to be diligent, disciplined, and effective in the responsibilities that you have for a period of time. And then when you feel like you're making the same decisions that your boss is approving time and time again, well, then you say, okay, are you comfortable with me making this decision? Are you comfortable if I just, you know, don't take the time out of your day to make a decision that we know we're going to be in agreement on? I think for me that really is helpful. The other thing that we've done here at Best Buy Metals is we've said, hey, GMs, up to $500, you can make the decision on your own, right? Build some structure around it, and once that structure has been established, then it does take some of the unnecessary communication out of the equation.
Add one thing.
Sure.
Really, I'm just going to give the mic right back to you. I just want to give you a situation. What if it's an emergency? What if it's something that happens and there's no time to call Isaac or you to get approval, and something needs to be done right now? How would you recommend they handle that?
Yeah, this happened just recently. We had an incident at one of our facilities that was an emergency. Everyone's should be smart, right? We're hiring smart people. That's one of the characteristics that we talk about, and kind of our ideal team player is that they have these smarts. They have the ability to make decisions that they know are in alignment with our company. And if there's an emergency, one, we expect our teammates and members to be treated well and safely, and that's obviously the priority. And two, to protect the company right after that, you know. And then we expect a report. You know, I send out these emails regularly when an injury happens or when an incident happens. Summary of events. Tell me exactly what happened. Tell me what led up to it. Tell me what transpired, and tell me how we're going to avoid that same situation in the future. And I think that's really the best way to allow our teams to react quickly and prepare us as a company for a situation that may come up like that in the future. Yeah.
Isaac, when you started Best Buy Metals, you were the chief decision maker. You had to make all the decisions. Fast forward almost 20 years, and if every decision was ran by you, there wouldn't be enough hours in the day for you to make all of them. So you've had to put people in place to help you with that over the years. I would love to get your thought process on how on this subject and how you put people in place to help you make decisions.
I think that in the beginning, that was the hardest part to let go, because you start the business and you think, well, if I'm not able to make the decision, how is it going to go? But then as I realized that if the company was going to grow, there's no way that I would be able to make all the decisions or want to make all the decisions. And so then when I seen the people that the God put in place here, and seeing they're well capable of making decisions, just as more capable than I am in many cases. And so once I found out their decisions were right along the line, many times it wasn't hard. Now many times Adam will tell you, I'll call him and say, hey, what do you think we should do about this, instead of me making a decision, because I've already seen, and any one of you guys, I've seen some decisions you all made that just went really well. So now if you just hired somebody, it's not that you distrust them. It's just sometimes they still have to build some confidence in you. So I don't feel you can just turn and just let anybody that you just make decisions. So that I would prefer many times for them to still send it up the ladder. They still don't always have to come to me. I'm totally fine with them coming to me if it's necessary. But today I told Adam, I know he was down there getting all kinds of phone calls from all directions still, and had to make all kinds of decisions. And guess what? I called him with another question. I called him with another decision he had to make, and I thought, man, I should have took that myself. But I think once you know and you have the confidence in the team that's here, then it's not near as hard. But at the beginning, it was a little something I had to realize. If the company was going to grow, got to allow people to make decisions.
That's why we spend so much time with this training and investing in our team members, is to make sure that there are people that are capable of contributing to good decisions. And there's been plenty of times where we've sat in the conference room together, and we use the verse in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. And we go into that room not really knowing what the decision is going to be, any of us. And we have to talk it through, and we bounce it off of one another. And each of us has a different perspective when we come out with the best decision, because we're able to talk through those things together. And so that was a really good answer. Adam, why are we always changing things?
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Wouldn't things be easier if we just kept doing the same things?
Things would be... yeah, easier. I mean, I think Blockbuster and Polaroid and all the other companies that refuse to change would tell you that they probably had some seasons where they never had to write a new policy, and it was probably pretty easy, but their business really suffered because of it. We are just living in such a dynamic world right now that you can't expect to do things the same way that you used to do them. New technology makes it impossible to rely. I mean, who uses a radial? What are those phones called? They got the rotary. Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Mark
We'll go back. We'll go back a generation. Yeah, so I mean, it's just really what it comes down to is understanding that we are not satisfied with where we are as a company. We've not grown to the level that we needed to grow. Like Paradigm going into our new sales software, man, that was a hard change, and I get that. But think about how limited we would be right now, especially with all the price changes. Mason and I were just talking about this. In QuickBooks, we used to have to go in and change prices at every branch that we had to go and change it and make all different prices. It would take forever. It'd be impossible. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons that we like change, is because we know from as we're going to grow as a company, to grow, scalability is going to demand a willingness to change. Culturally, things are changing as well. I think our customers demand a higher level of service now than they did back when I started. 12 years ago, we were really price driven, and that was fine for that season. That was okay with where we were. That's what our customers demanded. But I think people are getting past the day and age where they only would think with their wallet. They really see value in convenience now. Well, what if we never changed our model? What if we just said, okay, we're going to be the cheapest but we're not going to be able to afford to offer services, or we're not going to be able to afford the size sales team that we need to really take care of customers. We're not going to be able to buy nice trucks and have roller trailers to create this convenience of delivery. So, yeah, I mean, I totally understand the frustration of change, but the necessity outweighs the frustration 100% of the time. And for anybody who's looking to grow and develop as a leader, you have to change. Like, where you are right now is not good enough. You're right. You're not where I'm not good enough. And I know that. And like, there's this necessity to change. And, yeah, I mean, I get it. It's tough. It is tough. I hate it. I hate it. And it's not just at work either. Like, I wanted to grow and have a family. Well, there's a ton of joy that comes from having kids. There's also a ton of frustration, right? And I think as every season, you guys are experiencing, and Mark, you've experienced kids that have grown. They're not always pleasant. They're not always perfect. There's still a ton of joy, but there's some hardship that comes with those changes. Well, I think professionally, both corporately as a company and individually, change is necessary to propel yourself to where you want to go. If you're not changing, you'll remain stagnant, and everybody will change around you. I think that's some of those examples, like Blockbuster. Like, they could have been Netflix, right? JC, yeah, they could have existed in this world had they been willing to change. And so that's really why we change. I mean, it is harder. But it's necessary.
Yeah, and we say this a lot on our Metal Roofing University, or on the interview we did with Building Winds. The wave's coming. The wave's coming. You can create a wave. You can ride the wave, Mark, or you can get crushed by the wave. You can be Blockbuster. You can be JCPenney. It's going to happen. You can't stop it. And so it's really how you react, or how proactive you are, that determines your outcome. Best Buy Metals is going to continue to change. We consider ourselves innovators in this space. The building materials industry as a whole, and especially the metal roofing manufacturing part of it, is a bit of an old guard. There's a lot of old building materials mindset that is really stuck in its ways, and we're here to shake things up, and that requires some change and some growing pains that we're enduring now, and that we'll continue enduring as we grow, because our dreams are big. They're so big, they're scary. And we want our team members to be a part of that. We want you to stick around and endure that, and hang with us, because the outcome is going to be so cool. But as my I guess, I wish my personal mentor, Dave Ramsey, says, the train's leaving. Get on board. We want you to get on the train. Oh, you're not coming? So sad. All right, see you later. We're still going. Yeah. The train's leaving. The train's leaving the station. Hop on or get left behind.
Well, and scaling is really important too. Change is necessary for scalability. Scalability is necessary for creating positions and creating opportunities. So if in your head you're like, oh, I wish the company never changed, what you're saying is, I wish the company never created any other opportunities for me, because those two things go hand in hand.
So, Mark, how can I let my boss know I'm interested in advancement without looking like a brown noser?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought about a story. Adam always gives me a hard time about my illustrations and stories, but I immediately, when I read and thought about that, I thought, there was a guy who had been an educator for many, many years. He was a teacher, a principal. He had worked at the central office, and finally the superintendent's job came open. After he had been in the school system for 35, 40 years, the superintendent's job came open, and he just thought they would automatically offer it to him. But there was one fatal flaw. He never let anybody know that he wanted the position. And so they hired somebody else, and it broke his heart because they didn't come. And after they hired somebody, he was bitter, he was angry, he was upset. And he was like, well, they should have known. I said, how should they have known? How would they have known that you weren't completely content doing what you were doing unless you let somebody know? So the first message I would say is this: you have to let somebody know. If you're interested in moving, don't just assume that people are going to read your mind and know what it is that you want. We have to, going back to communication, verbalize what our desires are. There is nothing wrong with that. Now, as Isaac also mentioned too, It may not be right now at this moment. You may not be ready, or the opportunity may not be available at this moment. But if you continue to grow, continue to perform your duties with excellence, continue to ask to take on more responsibility and do those things that nobody else wants to do, and grow with the company and prove yourself, when that door is opened, you'll be the obvious choice. So really that's the key is man, there is nothing wrong with being ambitious. There is nothing wrong with wanting to do more, to be a bigger part, to be a bigger player, to be a leader. There's nothing wrong with that. And it reminds me of those days back when I was coaching, when we were at the end of 2-a-days and we're running our sprints to wrap up practice, and I would hear one of the guys say to the other, man, slow down a little bit, you're running too hard. Slow down, take it. And I would lose it because that was so counterproductive. And I was like, no. Go as hard as you can and push others to go as hard as they can, and either you keep up or pack it in, and that's what it's really all about. It's not brown nosing at all. It's just wanting more for your life. I mean, all of us got to where we are right now because we wanted more for our life. We were not content with where we were, and we felt like we could do more. We felt like that we could offer more, and so make those desires known while you continue to work. An old adage says this way: pray for a good harvest, but continue to hoe.
Isaac, I've definitely made it known to you over the years that I wanted advancement. As the chief executive officer, you probably had plenty of people make it known to you they want advancement. Our general managers are in positions, and even our warehouse managers are in positions where they have people that come to them and take Mark's advice. And they say, hey, I just want to let you know, I'm interested in this position. 6 months pass, 12 months pass, 2 years pass, and maybe it's not time yet. And they come to him, and they come to him, and they come to him. I want to spin this a little bit. How should the person that's in leadership manage the person that is so interested in advancement? Maybe they keep coming to them and making it known over and over and over again. How should that manager respond?
A lot of it, and I'll answer that in two different ways. Sometimes they're not responding because they're showing their ambition only when it's time for a review. Now, like Mark said, an ambition is good. Actually, it's not brown nosing at all. I say, be a rock star, go in there, humbly and graciously, and work hard. But there's a difference between just appearing to be ambitious and not being ambitious. So I have seen several over the years when it's time for a raise, and we know that just the 1 year mark don't mean it's time for a raise, but they think when it's time for a review, it means it's time for a raise, and it may be. But just before that, I've seen where sometimes for the month they'll be really ambitious, and then to me it's not really ambitious. It's just that's when you might say it's brown nosing. But in most of the time, ambitious is not brown nosing. But it's got to be a continuation, and when you see that, then I think it should be a responsibility of a manager to take notice of it, like you're asking, and find out what more they're really looking for. I think just sit down and really just talk to them about what they're looking for. And we know we don't always necessarily can't give them exactly what they're looking for, but if we get an idea, then in the right timing, we can move them into that. And a lot of that is just going back to communication, even the beginning part of it, relation building. When you ask who's a good leader, I believe it is a relation building, and it's teamwork. It takes active listening. It takes a lot of really digging into what the employee, what the other side is looking for, not just what we're looking for in them. And then you'll find that if we listen to them, then we should be able to advance them if they're motivated enough to. But like you were saying, I've seen many people hold back their peers and say, don't be that ambitious. And they'll call it brown nosing because it makes them look like they're not doing anything. But I say, work as hard as you can. It'll be noticed. Not just for that 1 month, not just in your 90-day trial either, but an entire time. And then there's not a thing wrong with coming in and say, I want to be able to do more within the company, and for them to voice that to us. Because if they don't voice it, then we might feel like they're comfortable where they're at. And some people are. Actually, there's a lot of employees don't want any more responsibility because it's just not what they're cut out to do. And everyone's got different. They don't make them less important. So sometimes we need to hear they feel like that they have this expertise or that expertise, but then we still have to see it. so we can know to move them in that position.
Yes.
You want to touch on
Go
that?
ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we're talking to kind of two groups here. Peer-to-peer, if you're interested in growing with the company and you're working hard and you're talking to your supervisors and being clear about what your expectations are or what your desires are, maybe not even your expectations, and your peers come up to you and be like, oh, brown noser, forget about them, right? Because they're not the ones who are going to give you the opportunity. You should be working to impress your boss, the person who can help you elevate your position. So we see that sometimes. I see that sometimes where you have people who are not willing to work as hard and who don't have the same motivation as you, trying to hold you back. So for anybody looking for the opportunity to grow, do not hesitate to have those conversations. Do not hesitate to work as hard as you can. Run hard, even if it makes other people look bad. I'm not saying go out of your way to make people look bad, but run hard even when other people aren't willing to do that. And again, you'll stand out more. And then as far as being, in a supervisor position, having somebody come to you, a couple of cautions, and I've had to learn this as well. One, don't overpromise. Be really cautious with the timelines that you talk about. If you have a really high performer and you feel like they do have an opportunity to advance, that's great. Just make sure we're cautious with timelines because, again, last year we had a pandemic and it really slowed down some of the things that we were planning on doing. And that wasn't intentional, but it probably delayed some of the position creations that we kind of had envisioned. So be cautious with the timelines that you're talking about. And I would say, help your team members understand where their skills and passions are and help them develop those things. They have to coordinate and they have to align with the needs of the company, right? If somebody's really good at analytics, but we have a position that requires managing people, well, we don't want to promote them to a position where they have to manage people. We talk about this sometimes. You promote somebody to their death. You promote them to do something that they're not equipped to do or they don't have passion to do. So we have to be cautious with that. So as far as supervisors interacting with their team, as far as how do we address that and how do we coach there? Be cautious with your language. Be intentional to talk about what the person really wants and where their passions and their skills are and how that aligns with the company. And then again, work to develop in those areas.
Yeah, I was going to share that as a general manager, I was asked this question plenty of times or confronted with, hey, I'm interested in this opportunity plenty of times. And sometimes the skill set aligned, sometimes it didn't. And so an easy solution for me, or what I typically always went to, was let's outline what the company's goals are together. All right, let's line those out. This is what the company's goals are. Let's outline what your passions are, and let's see where that intersects. There's going to be somewhere that where you want to be and what the company's path is going to intersect. Let's see what mutual interests and what mutual goals, mutual passions that the company has with what you have personally, and go for it. Go for it. Yeah, sure.
One final word that I thought of when we were doing it, if somebody really is persistent and they keep coming back and say, this is what I really want to do, and they do have the skill set to do it, if they're persistent and they're determined, that's one key, I think. If they come one time and ask and it's not a good fit and they never bring it up again, then it's different. But if they're really persistent, then it's something in their heart. And at that point, what I found is a good rule is to look, I'm going to hand you a piece of rope. This rope is yours. You can either make a lasso out of it and lasso the stars, or you can make a noose out of it. The opportunity's there in front of you. Now it's up to you to go do the hard work and make it happen. And so if people are really determined and really persistent, I'm a believer that who am I to hold them back? Let's give them a shot and show me. I coach kids that I thought there's no way you can play this position. There's no way. You're not the right height. You're not the right build. You don't run. You're not strong enough. No way you can do this. But they wanted it so badly that they found ways to overcome every obstacle and be the best at that position. So I'm certainly not one who's going to hold somebody back. I'm going to give you the rope. Do with it what you will.
Yeah, and I did want to speak again to what Adam was saying. There's always going to be a lowest 10%. There's always going to be people that want to hold you back or that are jealous. They're never going to put the effort in, but they don't want you to get there either. And like Adam was saying, don't let them hold you back. You got to put in the work and go for it anyways. But also, what a excellent opportunity for you to go ahead and exercise good leadership skills. And and lead these people with grace and being a good example. Because I tell you what will happen, and I know this from experience because I'm certainly not a perfect leader and got plenty of mistakes in my history that I can learn from. What will happen is if you are arrogant and you're the best, you still are the best, and you wind up getting that next position, and then boom, your peers underneath you, guess what? They hate you. And they're probably going to wind up throwing their gloves at you and walking out of the building with fingers flying, even if they were in your wedding. So that sounds like a true story, because it is, because I've been there. But I'm serious. It's an excellent opportunity for you to go ahead and exercise the things we're talking about, and leading these people, be an example for these people, and helping coach these people, even if you're not already in the position.
Mason, that's why what we're doing right now at this moment is so important. What we're doing right now is so important, because people who are really serious about growing and learning and becoming a leader, they will do the things. I mean, this is 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night. No, there's a lot of people that could think of a million other places they'd rather be, and some of them are there, believe me. But the ones who are here, the ones who are tuned in or dialed in, these are the people who are serious about this, and they're willing to do what it takes, and they're proving it. So note that this is not going unnoticed.
Shout out to you guys. Isaac, last questions for you here. I can't seem to get everything done in the day. How can I manage my time better?
I think a lot of us can relate to this one. But I think a lot of it is setting the goals correctly, setting goals that are achievable and measurable, prioritizing wisely, because if we very, very likely our list is too long to get done in a day, but if we prioritize, we'll get the things done that we really know we have to get done. Prioritize takes sometimes pretty much is setting a bulletin down. It's the simplest thing. Sometimes putting notes of which ones you got to get done first, and what rank to be done. Rank your tasks, be focused, to manage your distractions. I think you said it earlier today in the conference room. It might have been, I can't remember which one of you, down in Chattanooga. They said when it's time to make all these calls, he didn't go get a cup of coffee, come back, make one call, go to this. It's just say, I know I got to get this list done. I'm going to get it done. Then if I got a couple minutes, I can get me. It don't mean you can't take your breaks. Well, that's not where I'm going with that. But don't take your breaks. Breaks are out. Be focused. Manage. Sometimes it's structuring time. Block your work. Be self-aware and track your time. Just have, as the day goes through, because before you know it, it's time to go home. And if it's not, you'll find yourself here till 7 o'clock like we are tonight. But this is good. But I do believe that that we all can get to this point. But if you just put you down a list and prioritize and make sure you get it done before the day's over.
Yeah, there were plenty of times, and still are, but especially as a GM, when Isaac would come down to Greenville to visit, we'd do the walk around the property. He'd start showing me the things that needed to be fixed, and he'd go, "Where's your notepad?" "Oh, let me go get one." Because he knew I was going to forget. He's worked with me long enough to know I'm not going to remember. But where's your notepad? How are you going to know what to do if you don't have this written down? You're not going to know what you got done and what you didn't get done. So that's excellent advice, practical advice. Another thing that I definitely do is I plan tomorrow, tonight. I start planning the day before, because if I wake up, as soon as my feet hit the ground, stuff's already happening. Adam's already texted me about something that's going on. And and so you got to start reacting right away. And so if you wake up and you're ill prepared and you don't know where your pants are, and you're running out the door, flying by the seat of your pants, you get to work just in time to start extinguishing fires, it's over. You're a step behind the rest of the day. You're never going to get anything done. You're going to go home that night defeated. You're going to go home feeling like you didn't get anything done. Plan your day the day before. Adam, this is also an operational thing. I would like to get your input on this. How can people manage their time a little bit better?
Yeah, for sure. Well, number one, protect your time, right? It's finite. It's very, very limited. And, a lot of our team members don't have the luxury of being able to turn off their phone or being able to close their office door. But they do have the ability to tell their peers to stop talking to them, or to not be on Facebook, or to not be on, what's the most popular social network?
TikTok.
I don't don't know anymore. But I mean, really protect your time. I think that's one of the things that I had to learn as as an ambitious young employee. I wanted to prove to Isaac that I could do everything, and guess what? For a period of time, I did it really well, and then the company grew, and then I did everything very, very poorly because I wasn't able to do everything, and that's not the expectation anymore. We've built these positions, we've built structure and core responsibilities because everybody is responsible for a part of the puzzle. Nobody's responsible for the whole thing, but I've definitely noticed one of the things across the board that everybody or nearly everybody struggles with is protecting their time. So if I have somebody call me, if it's about something work-related, great. If they talk for 10 minutes and only 30 seconds of that is about work-related things, I need to protect my time. I need to be disciplined to say, hey, if you want to be social after hours, that's fine. You have to compete with my family. Good luck. But when we're at work, I have things that need to be done. So absolutely protecting your time, I think, for me is the number one thing. I do think that planning and prioritization, Mark, you may talk about the 4 quadrants, but I think that all of those things are important, and I think that planning is a huge part of that. But it doesn't matter if you build a great plan and you let somebody come in and steal 2 hours of your day, your plan is wrecked, and you have to push everything to the next day, and that's going to have a cascading effect on how you plan your days, weeks, months, and years. So definitely protect your time. Be willing to be aggressive with people who are trying to steal time from you, because that's going to hurt you in the long run. I mean, that's really going to be detrimental to your professional development, to your opportunities. If you are viewed as a time waster by the company, you're not going to be given the opportunities to prove what you can do, even if your skill set is great. If you are a time waster, if you show up to work late because you don't have good time management, you're just not going to be able to exercise and flex those skills in a higher position.
Mark, you've got a long history as an educator, coach, sales management, sales. Speak to this.
Yeah, we've done a whole training module on prioritizing and time management. I would like to redirect every single one of you to that because everything that was just mentioned is in that training. Blocking off time and scheduling, knowing what's most important and prioritizing it, protecting that time. All those things are there. And one thing in particular, and I'm going to brag on him, and he doesn't even know it, but this is from that training. So our conference room is adjacent to Adam's office. And when I first rolled out this prioritizing and time management training, one of the questions I asked him in this training is, how do you eat a live frog? All of you have been through that. You know that question is coming. And they look at me like, oh, what was he talking about? And it comes from a quote from Mark Twain, who said, when you have a live frog to eat, it does not pay to sit and look at it for a very long time. So we talk about what that means. Well, I was doing that training. Adam was not even in the training. He was in his office next door, right? About a week later, early in the morning, I came in. It was before 7. It was 6:30, 6:45, and it was something I needed. And I called Adam, and I said, man, you got a quick second? What are you doing? He said, I'm eating a live frog. I said, I'll call you back. And so just by him being next door, he heard that, he absorbed that, he applied it to his life, he blocked off that time, he guarded it, he was doing that difficult task early, that big, hairy, slimy, ugly thing and getting it out of the way, so the rest of his day would be a roller coaster ride. And so he guarded that time, and I honored it, and man, I was proud of him for doing that, because that's when you know that the change is happening. So all of those things that you mentioned, guys, are absolutely right. Look, here's the reality. We all have the same amount of time. We have the same amount of time as Thomas Jefferson and Leonardo da Vinci and Mother Teresa, and if you want to more modern day, Steve Jobs. We have the same amount of time that they had in a day. It's what we do with those moments that matter. That's why you guys hear me say this all the time. There's no such thing as a slow day. We cannot waste a second. We have too many big, important things to be doing to waste a second of it. And another thing that I point out to people is this, and Adam, you alluded to it, but I'm going to drive the point home. Time is life. It's life. It's all we have. It is the most valuable treasure that we have. And if you expect me to waste some of it on you because you want to go jack around, and I'm sorry. I've got too many other busy things to do. Dave Ramsey says it this way. You make your plan, you block off your time, and you start in on it, right? And according to Dave Ramsey, you prioritize things, and A1 is the most important thing you need to get done that day. And so he calls this his steak sauce. And he says at the beginning of the day, rest assured, you're going to start in there on your A1. You're going to be eating that live frog, and somebody's going to come to your door with a cup of coffee in their hand and say, hey, you got a minute?
How was your weekend?
And at that moment, you have to decide, is this steak sauce or not? And those are the hard decisions we got to make.
Well, that was excellent. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming down and spending your evening answering some questions. And thanks, everybody that joined the live stream. I hope you guys found this valuable. We'll share out the link if you want to rewatch it. Share it with your teams. We'll send this out. We'd like everybody to be able to participate, especially if, or even if they weren't able to join the live. We'll send the recording out. So until next time, we'll see you guys later. And Mark?
Go make it a great day.